Hey guys, we're getting ready for a water slide kickball tonight, but I didn't want to leave you out all on the internet without something fun to watch tonight. I came across a story in Judges that I just thought was too gross to not share, so I hope you'll enjoy it. So we've been, in our Red Thread series and talking about the birth of this nation, Israel, and learning to get settled in there. And so we're moving into the book of Judges, and Judges is this really interesting time in the birth of this nation, essentially. They don't have a king. God's like, hey, I want to be your king. And so he sends judges to defend and correct his people as they're living in this new land. And so right away in Judges chapter 1, we see that the Israelites are still fighting with the inhabitants of Canaan, and so they're supposed to suppress and get rid of those people, and they kind of struggle to even do that, which we'll get into that a little bit more next week. But nestled in the beginning of this book with all these different battles is this really crazy story about this one king. Let me go ahead and read it to you. It says, when Judah attacked, the Lord gave the Canaanites and the Perizzites into their hands, and they struck down 10,000 men at Bezek. It was there that they found Adoni-Bezek and fought against him, putting rout to the Canaanites and the Perizzites. Adoni-Bezek fled, but they chased him down and caught him and cut off his thumbs and his big toes. You guys, I can't make this stuff up. It's right there in the Bible. They cut off his big thumbs and his toes, his big toes. This seems like an exceptionally cruel act, doesn't it, to a random king? And we could think that if we didn't keep reading, which we will in just a moment. But before we do that, I want you to imagine life without thumbs and without big toes. What do those appendages do for you? Well, first of all, no thumbs. You couldn't open jars or door handles or any number of things. You couldn't run a plow or a knife or a rake. You couldn't gather. It would be hard to really do much of anything. In fact, they say that 50% of hand function is in our thumbs. And so that means they're really essential for us as humans to be able to do human things. Now let's think about big toes. Big toes, we usually think of, for balance, and that's certainly the case too, but it's also propulsion. If you lose your big toe, you're not able to run, and so you would struggle to work, but also to fight or flee or any of those things. In fact, the United States Army still will not take you as an enlistee if you are missing any part of your feet at all. So that's kind of interesting. Another cool fact is that you can actually replace your thumbs. If you were to lose them, you can replace them with a big toe. What? Yep, it's totally a surgery. It requires two teams, a team for the foot to take apart that big toe, and then a team on the hand to put the toe onto the hand to connect it to all the blood vessels and such, the nerves it needs to connect. And it's super gross. I found a photo. Blah! Isn't that gross? This new member on this hand actually has a word for it. It's called a Thoes. Once again, can't make this stuff up. Craziness. That surgery takes 8 hours and has a very extensive recovery. The hand gains function of the new Thoes much faster than the foot adjusts to losing its big toe. So, what the heck? Why did the Israelites decide to take this king's thumbs and big toes? I'm so glad you asked. And if we keep reading, you will see why. Verse 7 says, then Adoni-Bezek said, 70 kings with their thumbs and big toes cut off have picked up scraps under my table. Now God has paid me back for what I did to them. They brought him to Jerusalem and he died there. Okay, so this Adoni-Bezek character apparently got a real kick out of cutting off the thumbs and toes of his opponents. Again, this would have rendered them useless. They would have been reduced from being great, mighty kings, which were usually warriors in that time, to beggars and peasants who couldn't work or fight. And so since he had done that to 70 kings, that's a lot of people there, God brought that as punishment to him. And so we're reminded of a scripture in the New Testament. And let me go ahead and jump over there. In Galatians 6:7, it says, "Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows." And so here's the thing. If we sow evil, if we sow pain, if we plant ugly and mean, we're going to get evil, pain, ugly, and mean. However, if we plant good, kind, loving, then we're going to get good, kind, and loving because God isn't mocked. So, first of all, be thankful for your big thumbs today with 50% of your hand function. I mean, y'all couldn't text or play video games. It would be very difficult to scroll your phone without your thumbs. Also, be thankful for your toes. Your big toes provide stability and propulsion. And lastly, the most important thing to remember in this is that we get what we put in. And so let's this week be conscientious about sowing good things, kindness, being loving, being generous, being just others aware. And we're going to trust that God isn't mocked, that we're going to reap those things back out of our lives as well. All right, well, I hope tonight was interesting and that you remember this crazy little story in Judges, and I look forward to seeing you soon.